Hello. Today we're going to talk about a book you may or may not have read. I think a lot of people have read this book, but I've got some interesting thoughts to share with you about it. So the book itself is called Die with Zero. Did you read this book? It was written by Bill Perkins, and in it he talks a lot about he challenges the current sort of financial wisdom that we see out there. And one of the things that he really focuses on, and we'll talk a little bit about today, is maximizing experiences, creating lasting memories, and ensuring our resources bring us joy while we're still alive. So, very popular book. Those are some of the key things. I want to maybe go a step deeper into some of those things and talk about how I see them, what I noticed in the book. So I'll talk about a few of the key concepts in the book here, and then we'll just sort of run through it and see what's interesting for you. Maybe we'll make more videos about it if we get some interest in the subject. So let's start with his idea of memory dividends. So if you read the book, you probably remember he talks about this idea, which is creating returns on time. He talks about joy, happiness, and that those are some of the major things that we're investing in and receiving back as sort of return on investment from the time that we invest. So memory dividends and the return on investment of life experiences, we'll put that as sort of number one of the major concepts. Then he talks about time buckets. So aligning where we're at in our life with the types of experiences that we can expect to be having, and really designing our life that way. So I think he called it intervals. He had this idea of intervals. You can think about it as like decades. I think in a lot of the pop culture, the sort of lists you'll see sort of the 20s and 30s. So in his case he called these intervals. And so if you want to do something that's like a huge physical exertion, it's going to take a lot of activity, you may want to put that in an earlier interval than in a later one. Or you need to take such great care of yourself and invest such that you can continue to do that if it's in your future. I think for me, the thing I think about here, and a bucket list item that I'm still working on with a few friends, is I want to go heli skiing, right? And I'm in my late 40s now. I have to sort of face that fact. And if I don't go heli skiing soon and or take really great care of myself and get better and better at the sport itself, so I can expect less injuries, then I may cross over some kind of threshold where that's just really not in the work. So I think this idea of aligning the stages and the experiences was also really helpful. His idea of intervals, and where are you and where do you want to be and what do you want to get done, and making sure you solve some of these things in time. And I think one of his biggest messages in this case was, do not wait too long to do the things that you love. Because if you do wait, maybe you won't have the opportunity that you're hoping for. So next, we got this idea of giving while living. So basically he said, create a legacy that you can witness. I think so many people save, work, don't spend time with loved ones. And then what? They, oh, well, when I'm tomorrow, some other time, I'm going to package this up and save it, and I'm going to pass it on. And then they have all kinds of different realizations. Like maybe the people that you're passing it on to, maybe they're not going to be as sophisticated as you would hope for in how they're going to deploy that capital, how they're going to spend the money. And so maybe you can do things to be part of that, and you can provide education, support, influence while you're doing these things while you're still alive. We have a bit of a love affair with the idea of sort of stacking it up and then stacking it up and then stacking it up, and then maybe it'll be sort of the stacks will get smaller when we're gone. But I think the key concept here is like stack and get to a place where you're comfortable, but then get comfortable with deploying some of that capital and creating joy with it, bringing it out into other people and your family, loved ones, and your circle that you would love to see benefit from the various investments that you've made and the way that you've grown that wealth. So invest it while you're alive in the people that are in your life. And so if I just take these three main practical takeaways, calculate your your dividends that you have with your time, which are creating memories and happy times and joy, both in yourself and others. And then, create your time buckets and think through like where you're at in your life and what you want to be getting done. And then plan your giving while you're living. So if I just, sort of conclude this set of concepts, what do they mean? They mean sort of a logical approach to what you're going to do with the wealth that you've created and how you're going to pass it on. And I think it really does go against a lot of, in particular in America, how we think about growing wealth. Think about the return on it. Now, it's not just sort of like points that you're going to get on the return of this capital. It's how much joy, happiness are you going to get? How are you going to share that joy and happiness with others? And how are you going to make it such that you are a person who's engaged with the people around them and not just engaged with growing your wealth. So those are intentional decisions. Sometimes they take sitting down, they take work on our parts to do this. And I think it's a really important way to think through how we're connected with the people around us and how our wealth is affected by that, and how to be intentional about it and maybe improve from where we are now. So we can talk about this more. I hope that we get to. I think it's a really interesting book. I have some thoughts about exact actionable steps that you can take. I'd like to share those. So just stay tuned for our next piece, and I'll also share with you some of my own stories, which I think you may find sort of fun and engaging, and you can see what I've learned, sometimes the hard way. And so stay tuned for that. We'll share more about Bill Perkins' Die With Zero book, some action items you can take to sort of align with the intentionality of the book, and I'll share a story with you in the next set. So stay tuned.